Hello and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 8th grade concept of ordering numbers. This is standard 8.2D in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 1 off the 2016 released STAAR test. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we've got 4 students, each trying to raise the same amount of money for a class trip. The table below shows how much of each student's goal has been met. Whoever's making this table, I'm wondering why they are using decimals, fractions, and percents, because that's really hard to order. But we need to get this table in order from least to greatest. Can't do that if we're dealing with fractions, decimals, and percents. So we need to make them all look the same. We could do it in any of these 3, but I would say the fractions are going to be the hardest because they have to have the same denominator. I would always say, when in doubt, go with the decimal, because once you get the decimals, you can just line them up. So Chelsea, our 0.7 is good. So I'm just going to kind of line up my actual decimals right here. So let's go for our 2 fractions. We'll use this as our workspace over here to the right, 2/3. Now, some of you might know what 2/3 is because that's a benchmark fraction in 6th grade. Hopefully we memorize that, but in case you ever get stuck, you can divide up. So divide that 3 into the 2 and just do a whole bunch of multiplication there. And so we're going to get 20. So it's going to go in 6 times, and you're going to notice that we're going to do it 6, 6, and we're going to keep going. So this is the one where it's 0.6 repeating. So I'm going to just call this 0.66. I'll round that up to 7. We'll make that 0.700. I just want to make it to where we can easily compare the two. So that's going to be 0.6 repeating. But if you were to take it to 3 decimal spots, it will be 0.667. 5/8, we could do the same thing. We can divide up. I will show you on 8s there is actually a quicker way, but you have to have it memorized. Basically, you have to know that it works. So we're going to leave that with a remainder of 5. Add our decimal, bring it down. So 58 goes into 50. 6. It's going to take a little while, but we'll get there. 2. That's 16. And there we go. Now we're going to get into our 0. That's going to be 5. So 0.625. 0.625. Now I said there's a slightly easier way to do that for decimals. If you want to get them into a decimal, if you can multiply by equivalent fraction and get the new denominator in a 10, 100, or thousandths, well, that's easy because that's the first 3 spots in place value, 10, hundreds, or thousandths. For 8s, you can actually multiply right by 125 over 125. And you're like, why would I want to do that? Well, 8 times 125 actually makes 1,000. And then 5 times 125, you might be able to eyeball it, but guess what we're going to end up with? 625. So 625 over 1,000 equals this right here, 625 thousandths. So on 8ths, you can multiply by 125 over 125. Now this last one's 65%, a little bit easier, because to change from a percent to a decimal, you just remember that 65% is 65 out of 100. So you can either look at it like this, move it over once, twice. 100% is 1 whole, or you can just look at it like this, 65 over 100, say 65 hundredths. Either way, you're going to get into 0.65. And since we've got to the thousandths place, I'll go ahead and put a 0 there. All right, so it looks like our least is going to be our 5/8. And then our next is going to be the 65%. Next is going to be 2/3. Biggest is going to be that 0.7. Our answer here is C.